Listen, not only was their defense number one last year, I looked it up this morning, it was the youngest defense in the league and the cheapest. So they do everything right. I don't think they're as good at quarterback. I think when you can force Philadelphia to play from behind and you can force them to throw, they're not as dangerous as a Buffalo is forced to throw or a Kansas City is. But again, they do everything well. They GM well, they quarterback well, their line plays incredible. Saquon Barkley has just been jet fuel to an uber-talented roster. So there is my herd hierarchy. And a couple of teams.
Yeah, the Philadelphia Eagles are interesting, especially if you look at them as being the youngest and cheapest defense, and yet they were the best defense. It's pretty remarkable. They were a defensive team, but in a different way. Usually when we talk about a defensively team, we're like, the defense is really the engine, and that's how they're winning their games. And that's not what happened with the Eagles. They were defensive in the way that their defense dictated how their offense was going to, how they were going to call the offense and run the offense, whether they had the lead or not. And that's what was so great about how the Eagles were able to do it. Because the Eagles, if they needed to be in a traditional sense of the word now, offensively led, they obviously are more than capable of hanging points. We saw that again and again and again, not only throughout the season, but of course in the most important games. So that's why when I say like defensive, like they were defensively, they defensively dictated how that offense was going to call and operate. And as long as they continue that trend, then there would be really no worries. But at the same time, when you can still be such a high-hour offense and a devastating offense, as the Eagles have proven to be able to have, it just makes you more resilient. Are they at their best? So I understand what Colin is saying in terms of like, you trust more like the Bills or someone or the Chiefs if they're from behind or if they need to put up a lot of points. Like I understand that logic, because that you could make the argument that that's when the Bills or the Chiefs are, or the Ravens even, like that's when they're at their best. And that's not technically when the Eagles are at their best. And so that's fair. But don't get that twisted with then being incapable of or lacking of, because we know that's not the case. And we know Jalen Hurts can bring that as well, right? And so I'm so fascinated to see this offense evolve as well, because it's also now year 2 with Saquon Barkley, AJ, Devontae, and Jalen, like that core group of guys, and how this offense is going to run. And a lot of things I believe for them were unlocked as the season unfolded. Sometimes football is really incredibly simple and straightforward, and other times it just takes hours on the field together. And sometimes it just takes hours and hours of the coaching staff to figure out, what am I seeing when I'm watching this film, and what else is there that I'm not seeing, and what are the choices that I have to grow, evolve, to rectify. It's why these coaches pour over it. The coaching staff works such an insane, I forget, I saw this at like an interview a million years ago at this point, I think it was with Colin Cowherd, and he was talking to a player where he was like, I wanted to go into coaching, but then when I saw just how much the coaches had to work in the hours that they had to work, he was just like, I'm good on that. I'm good on that, and that's what they're due. I mean, like, they are just strategizing, evaluating, digesting, analyzing, breaking down, just nonstop. And so to think that you can just effortlessly do that and have all the answers figured out in year 1 with someone as much of a monster as Saquon, and even Jalen Hurts' skill set still continuing to evolve and grow as well, right? AJ and Devontae, they're prototypical. You know who they are. You can put them on any team, and although you have to see where they fit on, each individual team, and how they fit in relation to the other guys, but like you don't have to like really watch too much film and be like, how do I make AJ Brown work? Like that's just, it's not how it's going to work. But you do have to figure that out in terms of how do I put AJ Devontae, Saquon, Jalen, you know, it's just because there's many options here. There's many other variables here. It's why I credit coaches a lot when you have players who get banged up and are in and out of the lineup, because it's, to me, it just falls so much more on the shoulders of the coaching staff to figure it out rather than say like an individual quarterback. And so again, you have year 2 of that. The problem is that you don't have year 2 with the same coordinator. And so that is definitely a bummer. And I know there's continuity with elevating what was he the passing, I think he was the passing game coordinator, I believe. Yeah, passing game coordinator with Kevin. You have some of that continuity, but it's still going to be a little bit different than is if it was Kel Moore, which is why, as I said in my previous video, like that still is where my mind really looks towards and seeing what do you have there. But I in a way, as long as he was the right hire in terms of like he's clearly capable of doing it and understands how to call plays, having someone still within the building, I think is extremely beneficial. I don't think it always is, but I think it can definitely serve a pretty strong purpose with this Eagles offense. And they already have an agenda with what they were trying to do offensively, the moves that they've made, the other receivers that they look to get, adding another monster of a running back. Like, they have a plan. Like, that's the beautiful thing. They have a plan. When you look at some of these other teams, you're like, what's the plan? What's the plan for the Baltimore Ravens offense to evolve and change? Tell me. What's the plan for the Buffalo Bills offense to evolve and change? The Dallas Cowboys. Oh, we got another receiver. Okay. How's it going to change? We got a new head coach. Okay. And what are you looking to do? You don't know. And I don't know either. None of us do. The Eagles still have their plan. They're looking to continue to elevate and fortify this offense. And you're going to have the trust in Fangio and that defense, even if it's not as maybe suffocating as it was, say, last season. But I mean, maybe it could be. I got no idea. There's going to definitely be a fair amount of new pieces there. You know, I don't know. So I'm certainly excited to find out. That's for sure. It makes sense that the Eagles are going to be number 1 right now. And it's funny because I made a Packers video with Micah Parsons obviously getting traded to the Packers. And of course, immediately you're going to think like, what does this mean for the Eagles? Because they're the reigning Super Bowl champions. And I made a Packers video and I went through the list and I said, let's say we just look at what Colin is saying is accurate, where that the Packers are 9. And this was pre-Micah Parsons. And I went through and I'm like, you have the Rams, the Commanders, the Seahawks, and the Eagles. And I said, you know, you add Micah to this team, it's going to make it more difficult now. And I said, it's going to be more difficult for Stafford. It's going to be more difficult for Jaden. It's going to be more difficult for, oh my God, Sam Darnold. And it is going to be technically more difficult for for Jalen Hurts. But this is what I find so fascinating, that Jalen Hurts has already proven to be able to go beyond that. He proved that in multiple Super Bowls even. But even just the very last game, we saw that when the pressure got to Jalen Hurts, he was actually that quarterback that was able to consistently make the play that needed to play. And again, it was on the Super Bowl. So, the very last game that we saw, where I'm just like, if you add Micah to this team, what does that do? And it's like, it definitely changes things, and it definitely makes it harder, but It's not the difference between beating the Eagles and not. And that's an awesome place to be in. It could be the difference between beating Stafford and not. It could be the difference between beating the Commanders and not. It could be the difference between beating the Seahawks and not. But if the Eagles still have that great defense and they still have all their offensive weapons and O-line at their disposal, it's like you have to ask, like, is it enough? Now, to be fair, I think the Packers had one of the best defensive stances against the Eagles in that playoff game. They were blanketed. And that's why I'm excited to see how this offense evolves, and even now adding another running attack. What does that add? And what type of creativity do they have there? Or even just an extra heavy reliance of like, you know what? We don't care what anyone says. We are just going to keep running it and running it and running it and running it. Like I'm fascinated by what options the Eagles have, because they have every option. If they need to be a team that has to throw the ball 40 times a game, they can do that. If they need to be a team where, what was it, like 40 times or 50 times that the Baltimore Ravens ran the ball against the Pittsburgh Steelers? Like something outrageous in that wild card round, you know? Like if they have to do that, they can do that, right? Like so really, as long as their defense just doesn't fall off a cliff and wasn't just somehow lightning in a bottle. And Theo's like actually really not that good of a coordinator, and he just got lucky that all the pieces came together, which I obviously do not believe, but we'll technically say that that's a possibility. Like as long as that doesn't come into fruition, it's just like every single option is available. Every single option is available to the Philadelphia Eagles. And as long as you have the coaching staff to tie it all together, that's all it takes. So we made it. We got only a few more days, and it's week 1, and you're going up against the Dallas Cowboys without Micah Parsons. Pretty good. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Philadelphia Eagles being ranked first overall, according to Colin Cowherd's herd hierarchy? Let me know in the comments below. Oh, last season they went 14-3 and won the Super Bowl. I didn't know that. I didn't catch that. Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So, whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. The other thing I want to say, actually, you probably already clicked off, but it was pretty funny because on First Things First, they were having this conversation about all these other quarterbacks, about like Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and they were saying like all these quarterbacks are under pressure to win. Like even Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes, like if you're a great quarterback, you always have the pressure to win. But Brew is like, but Momies and Jalen, it's a little bit less because they've already proven that they can win a Super Bowl. And it was like such like a moment when it was just like such a crazy place that Jalen can say, like, I've proven I can win a Super Bowl. I just wonder what that also does for his evolution as a leader and a player, both on the field and off. But anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single comment, whether you agree with me or disagree with me. Either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be a part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.